and we're going to go on to the 2 to 4 months. So again, this is to help you get ready for the 4-month visit. Lots more to do between 2 and 4 months. The first couple of months was just survival. Now it's going to be so much more fun. So again, we're going to talk about the tummy time. We're going to talk about the social emotional development and some of the other things. Hands, which is the fine motor, and communication and all of that. So with gross motor, which is the big body movements, tummy time is still key. I want them to roll from their belly to their back by the time they are 4 months old, which they used to do when babies used to sleep on their tummies. Now we don't let them sleep on their tummies because 50% reduction, sudden infant death syndrome, which we realize is because they were actually suffocating their own air. They were rebreathing. So we don't want them sleeping on their tummies, but they should spend time when they're awake and supervised on their tummy. And now if you've been working on the tummy time already, they'll be lifting their head and some of their chest already, and then they'll really be able to lift up and arch that back and use those muscles back there. And then you can stick those arms underneath to help them have some support. They'll flail it out again or move it to the side, and you just tuck them right back underneath because it gives them a little bit more support. And then if they haven't had any tummy time and they hate looking at the ground, they're going to cry. And as long as they're using their muscles, it's like boot camp. You just do it. Let them have the time on their tummy. And then sometimes they'll flail with their arms out like crazy. But even if they do that, they are doing some exercise. They're using those back and neck muscles. So it's fine from a muscle perspective and a medical perspective. It will probably get you very upset because they're crying, but they're not really crying, just so you know. You'll hear this again. They're communicating and they're saying, I don't want to look at the ground. And you as a parent will say, you need to turn from your belly to the back because I don't want you getting stuck in the middle of the night. Because what happens is, so now they're on their back all the time. They're fine. When they roll from their back to their belly, if they don't know how to get back over, then they're more likely to get stuck. So they roll from their back to their belly by 6 months. Some kids sooner. So I really want them to be able to roll from their belly to their back before then. And if they don't, you'll do what I did, if you're crazy, and sleep next to your child on the ground with your hand inside the crib to make sure that your child is still breathing. So please just do the tummy time. It's much better. So time on the tummy, lifting their head, neck, chest, and then arms underneath, and eventually they'll be able to pick up even more, like push their arms are on the ground, they can push like 45 degrees. So that's a really good goal. And then when they're really strong and rigid, they'll start flipping. They'll start flipping their body. They'll curve their body. They'll do their little obliques. And when they do that, at some point they'll realize, whoop, I can flip over. So sometimes one of the arms will get stuck, so keep an eye and just try to help them keep those arms tucked in so that when they do roll, whichever side they go towards, the other arm isn't, stuck behind them or on the side. So, and then parents will always ask me the number of minutes. There's no number of minutes, there's a goal. The goal is ideally at least really good and strong, like 45-degree angle of, head, neck, upper torso, supporting with the arms, and in an ideal world, it would be tummy to back by 4 months. But, even if we can get that head and neck and everything, then it would be much more comfortable. If they can flip from their belly to their back before they flip from their back to their belly. So if they're sleeping on their back like this, right, and they flip over onto their belly, and they're not able to flip back over when they're awake, then when they're sleeping and they flipped over and they're rebreathing that carbon dioxide and all of that, are they going to be able to lift themselves out of that position, at least move their head? I don't know. So at least if I know they're strong enough to be able to flip back over during the day, I'll know that even if they happen to get stuck, they'll have that strength to at least get their head out of the position that they need to. Once they roll both ways, we don't worry as much. So, but that's more closer to 6 months. So that's the gross motor, tummy time, full body movement stuff. Social emotional communication, they're going to start totally communicating with you now and having little back and forth goos and ga's and conversations with you. You'll talk to the baby will coo at you and smile, you'll talk back. There'll be, like little pause, wait, say something, wait to hear what you had to say. They're starting their first little conversations. It's so cute. And then they will be smiling and they'll be reacting to you. You'll be seeing a lot more facial expressions and stuff. And usually not by 4 months, but some kids by 4 months will start giggling. Full on giggle. Oh my gosh, it's so cute. So that's always a fun thing to look forward to. So, but the more you talk to them, the more you just express yourself verbally, physically, the better your baby will be able to communicate with you. Sorry, my dog is on my foot. Okay, so then the fine motor stuff. So they should really be able to start grasping things pretty well now. They may start reaching a little bit for things too. Like if they're on that little play mat and they're laying and looking up and there's things that are dangling, they may actually reach for those things. And if they do, great. If not, it'll happen pretty soon afterwards. And then you can stand them up. Oh, I forgot about that in the gross motor. Stand them up, feet flat on the ground. So those are all things we're going to ask you about at their 4-month well visit. Can they stand with their feet flat on the ground? And then they can start sitting like in your lap, in the corner of the sofa with support. So some kids are even more developmentally advanced with their gross motor and they can sit without as much support, but obviously you're just going to see how things go and you're going to give your baby that support as they go and give them a little bit less support if they're sturdy enough that they're not as likely to topple over. Usually they're not sitting well without support until about 6 months. So it's going to be a little bit, but just work on providing them that stuff. And then again, when they're in that position where they're sitting up or they're standing, they're really going to be socializing with you. So all that social emotional communication is going to be going back and forth. Some of them want to sit in those bumbo type seats, which is totally fine as long as it's safe, sturdy. The way it works is it just sinks their butt down a little bit. So it gives them a little bit more support so that it's not as, they're not as much of a weeble wobble, but they have to have good head control before they can do that, which they should have by about 4 months. And they have to have good trunk control before they can do that. So they still have to be able to sit up pretty well with very little support before they're sitting in the bumbo. So, or whatever, there's like 20,000 brands out there now, but whatever, kind you get, just making sure that they are strong enough with their head and they're not going to flip back. And then making sure they're strong enough with their torso. And then they'll really want to sit and watch you guys, and eventually they'll start watching you eat. And we'll talk about eating in a whole nother one. But 6 months developmental is when they start eating. So we talk about the food at the 4-month well visit. And we know that's difficult for one parent only in the office, which is why I started this series, so that I can tell you guys everything I want to tell you, even if you're not able to physically be there. So I think that's the big stuff with their social, emotional, gross motor, fine motor, communication. Yeah, so we will see you soon when we go to the next stage from the 4 to 6 months.